Once again, it is me, Dr. Bright Udemezue, on Lecture 4 series of Boodinian Metaphysics. This Lecture 4 is titled Comparative Analysis of Boodinian Narrative, Boodinian Spectator Time, and Boodinian Subjective Time, using specific films for comparative analysis. The three key films under considerations are Memento 2000, pulp fiction film of 1994, and a Chinese film In the Mood of Love of 2000. Each of these three films offers a distinct temporal strategy, allowing us to see how Boodinian core films' approach to time is a property of reality. That experience is unintelligible without time, and that time makes the difference by enabling judgment and meaning. This comparison explains better audio-visual storytelling in philosophy of film. The first of the three films being analyzed, as I stated earlier, is film Memento, whose temporal strategy is epistemic, fragmented, narrative time, epistemic, spectator time, and ontological, psychological, subjective time. This film is based on a short story captioned Memento Mom by Jonathan Nolan. And the film script was written by and directed by Christopher Nolan. The film Memento is a paradigmatic case of Boodinian narrative time as epistemic architecture. This film reverses chronology and intercut black and white sequences, creating a radical, fragmented narrative structure. Events of the film as presented moves backwards. Therefore, each new scene retroactively recontextualizes the previous one. Therefore, from a Boodinian metaphysical perspective, this time structure foregrounds time as a condition of judgment, where the viewer can only form reliable interpretations by gradually reconstructing the temporal order. Under epistemic and fragmented narrative time of the film, time in this film is not simply nonlinear, it is deliberately disorientating. The film's temporal design forces the viewer into a position analogous to one of the actors, Leonard, who was unable to rely on a stable memory and therefore compelled to infer causalities from incomplete temporal fragments. Again, for emphasis, time in Boodinian sense makes the difference by determining what can be known when and under what condition. Considering the film under epistemic spectator time, the film Memento characterizes cognitive labor and epistemic suspense. The viewer's lived temporal experience is one of the constant calibrations. Each new scene demands a revision of previous assumptions, which aligns with phenomenological accounts of cinematic time as embodied and experiential. Under the Boodinian lens, time here is experience and is not incidental, but structurally grounded in film's temporal ontology. Spectator time also leads us through the film's epistemic journey. The film duration is experienced as a process of temporal problem solving, where meaning emerges only through sustained engagement with the film's temporal logic. Under ontological, psychological, subjective time of the film, the film defines the main protagonist's short-term memory condition. His consciousness is fragmented into discrete temporal blocks, each reset erasing continuity. Hence, the film's structure externalizes this subjective temporality. While the narrative is built to mimic his inner time, from the Boodinian standpoint, the protagonist's subjective time is not merely psychological, it is also ontological, constitutive of the film's world. The story of the film exists as a series of temporal ruptures because the character's experience of time is also ruptured. The next film being considered here now is film Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is an American crime movie directed by Quentin Tarantino from a story written by Roger Avery. The temporal strategy of this film is modular and of shuffled narrative time nature. Its spectator time is rhythmic affective, and its subjective time is psychological. Under modular and shuffle narrative time of the film, pulp fiction employs a modular shuffle narrative structure, which is arranged in chronological order, creating a network of intersecting stories that look back on themselves. Narrative time here is nonlinear but not opaque. Hence, the viewer can, on his own, reconstruct the chronology. Yet, the film powers lies in how it uses temporal arrangement to generate thematic and ionic resonance. From Boodinian metaphysics of time, this modular narrative structure demonstrates that temporal ordering is not merely a vehicle for plot, but a means of producing meaning. By placing certain events before others, even when they occur later in storyline, the film invites the viewer to form judgments that are later revised or deepened. Time again makes the difference here by structuring how and when moral, thematic, and character insights become available. Under the film's rhythmic and affective spectator time, the film's pacing, dialogue, and chapter structure creates a temporal experience that oscillates between tension, humor, and reflection. The viewer's time is not temporarily disoriented, but playfully reconfigured. The pleasure of the film lies in recognizing temporal echoes, callbacks, and circularities. Here, under Boodinian metaphysics of time, the temporal design shapes not only cognition, but also affect. The viewer's lead duration is patterned by the film's temporal games, producing a sense of temporal play rather than temporal crisis. Under subjective psychological time of the film, it appears in moments of introspection and crisis, such as Jules' transformation after the miracle of Butcher's memory of his father's watch, according to the film. This moment shows how individual temporalities, memory decision, moral turning points intersect with film's broader modular time. From Boodinian's metaphysics of time, the subjective psychological experience is unintelligible without time, as evidenced here, as character change is always marked as a temporal event of before and after. That is an inner duration. final of the three films being considered under Boodinian metaphysics of time, narrative time, spectator time, and subjective time is the film In the Mood of Love. This film is a traditional Chinese film which was written and directed and produced by Wong Kai-wai. The temporal strategy of this film is elliptical and linear. Its narrative is affectively saturated and contemplative. Its subjective time is psychological and repetitive. Considering the film under the narrative time, which is elliptical, linear, and repetitive, time here is stretched and thinned, emphasizing routine, delay, and missed opportunities. Here, the film, rather than using time to complicate casualties, the film uses time to deepen emotional resonance. From a Boodinian standpoint, the narrative time in this film has an affective duration, embodies the characters' inability to act on their desires. Time here is not a puzzle to be solved, but a medium of longing. The narrative's slow unfolding demonstrates Boodin's claim that experience is unintelligible without time. Hence, the meaning of the relationship of the antagonists and the protagonists emerges only through prolonged, restrained temporal coexistence. Considering the spectator time of the film, which is affective, saturated, and contemplative, the film is long and repeated musical motifs, slow pacing, hence inviting the viewer into a temporal rhythm of waiting, watching, and feeling. The viewer's lived duration becomes aligned with the character's emotional stasis. Viewing of the film is particularly apt here, but the Boodinian take is that the film embodies temporality as grounded in ontology. That the film's world is one in which time itself is the medium of unfulfilled desires of the antagonists and the protagonist. Hence, the spectator does not simply observe time passing. They actually inhibit a temporal atmosphere of restraint and possibility. Here, the film makes spectator time a space for shared longing for both the protagonists, the antagonists, and the viewer. Under the subjective time of the film, which is psychological and repetitive, the characters of the film indicates inner temporalities of memories of the spouses in the film. It raises anticipations of meetings, rehearsals of conversations, gestures, and repetition of flashbacks. Hence, the subjective time consideration of this film is one of suspended decisions, where the future is perpetually deferred. In Boodinian time, this subjective time is ontologically significant, as it shapes the very texture of the film's reality. Therefore, it can be said that the word of the film, that is, In the Mood of Love, by a Chinese writer, director, and producer, is one in which the inner duration of what is not said, not done, not yet decided, defines what is real. Here, time makes the difference. Here, not through dramatic events, but through the accumulation of small, temporally extended moments of almost connection. Summarizing and comparing of Boodinian insights on the three films, under narrative, spectator, and subjective time, the film Memento uses narrative fragmentation to foreground epistemic temporality, where time is the condition of knowledge and judgment. In the film Pulp Fiction, use is made of modular narrative time to create thematic and moral resonance, inviting playful yet reflective time of the spectator. And in the third film, which is In the Mood of Love, use is made of elliptical and slow narrative time to construct an affective temporality of longing, aligning spectators and subjective time in a shared duration. In all three temporality, that is, narrative time, spectator time, and subjective time, considered in this lecture, John F. Boodin's core premise holds that time is not a decorative element, but the very medium through which narrative, experience, and meaning become intelligible. Hence, Narrative time structure seeks for what can be known. Spectator time structures asks the question how it is felt, while the subjective time structures demands who the characters are. Together they confirm Boodin's claim that time in cinema is in reality truly makes the difference. Thank you for your time and attention, and see you in lecture 5.